You finally did it. You stopped reacting. You set that boundary, and now, the person who used to control every aspect of your life, the narcissist, looks genuinely confused, maybe even terrified. What happens in their distorted reality when their favorite toy breaks and their manipulation simply stops working? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into a topic that feels terrifying for many survivors. But once you understand it, it becomes incredibly empowering. We're talking about the narcissistic collapse. You've probably experienced the classic manipulation tactics, the love bombing, the gaslighting, the triangulation. But when you finally stand firm, everything shifts. When you stop feeding the supply, that constant stream of attention and emotional reaction they crave, the playbook changes dramatically, and their reaction becomes far more extreme than a simple tantrum. This becomes a system failure for them. Their entire false self depends on external validation. When that crucial supply is cut off, their psychological operating system starts to collapse. When you refuse to engage with the drama, you become what we call gray rock. You make yourself boring, neutral, and emotionally non-responsive. The first thing a narcissist feels is not rage. It's confusion. They're standing there, using the same buttons they've pressed for months or years, and suddenly, they realize the machine isn't responding. Their mind races, trying to figure out if you're sick, if you're depressed, or if you're playing a new, more complicated game designed specifically to punish them. They can't conceptualize the idea that you've simply found peace and are choosing stability over their chaotic presence. This confusion quickly spirals into a frantic escalation phase. Think of it like a desperate gambler doubling down when they're losing. If the gentle manipulation didn't work, they crank it up. They might try to hoover you back. That means trying to pull you back into their drama again. They may use intense love bombing and promise they've changed. The classic line, "I'll go to therapy. I'll be better." Or they switch tactics completely. They move to fear-based pressure, using desperate emotional blackmail or inventing a crisis only you can solve. This escalation is their final test to see if the old power dynamic can be restored, hoping your empathy will override your newfound boundaries. But if the escalation fails, if you stand there looking completely unbothered, the narcissist faces a truth they cannot tolerate. They are powerless. This is the moment the mask slips. Just for a second. You might see real panic in their eyes, maybe even vulnerability. That brief moment is terrifying for them because it exposes the inner, deeply wounded child who believes they are utterly worthless without admiration or control. They hate this feeling so intensely that they immediately search for a target to blame for their inner turmoil. The shift is immediate and brutal. Since the gentle Hoover failed, they jump straight into intense devaluation. Before, they might have subtly undermined you. Now, they openly attack your character, your intelligence, your sanity, and your credibility. They need to rewrite the narrative quickly, ensuring that you are the problem, not their failure to control you. They'll start saying things like, "I knew you were crazy all along," or "Everyone agrees that you are emotionally unstable," pushing harder than ever on your known insecurities to provoke a reaction that they can use as ammunition. If you still maintain your composure, showing them that their words have zero impact, the narcissist moves into the critical smear campaign phase. They realize they can't control you anymore, but they can still try to control your reputation. This is where the flying monkeys, the people they recruit to support their narrative, are activated. They begin sharing half-truths, outright lies, and distorted versions of your relationship with mutual acquaintances, family members, or colleagues, portraying themselves as the victim of your supposed emotional instability. The goal of the smear campaign is dual. First, to cut off any potential support network you might rely on, leaving you isolated and susceptible to future hoovers. And second, and most importantly for the narcissist, to secure a fresh stream of narcissistic supply from these flying monkeys. When the flying monkeys sympathize with the narcissist, pitying their suffering, the narcissist gets a massive ego boost, a validation that confirms their false self is still believable despite your rejection of it. What's fascinating about this process is the cognitive dissonance they must maintain. They know, deep down, that they are the one manufacturing the chaos, yet their delusion requires them to sincerely believe that you are the source of all conflict. They cannot reconcile the image of themselves as perfect, loving, and generous with the fact that someone would willingly leave them or reject their attention. Therefore, you must be fundamentally flawed, broken, or suffering from some deep psychological illness. Remember this: a narcissist sees relationships as transactions, not connection, resource management. When your manipulation stops working, you are no longer a viable resource. You are a defective tool that needs to be discarded or destroyed. The energy they expend trying to control you starts exceeding the supply they receive, making the investment of their energy unprofitable in their distorted mental accounting. This is the psychological tipping point leading into the discard phase. When every tactic fails, love bombing, threats, emotional blackmail, smear campaigns, they make one final move: cold silence, total disappearance. They will suddenly vanish, not necessarily because they have given up, but because they have found a temporary new source of supply, the replacement, and need to save face by pretending they were the one who chose to leave the defective partner. For the survivor, this sudden, cold discard can be incredibly painful, feeling like the ultimate rejection. But you must reframe it. The discard is proof that your boundaries worked. It's not a sign of your failure, it's a sign of their defeat. They are retreating to protect their fragile ego from the undeniable truth that someone recognized their fraudulent self and walked away willingly, taking the supply with them. Internally, while they project confidence, the narcissist is experiencing a profound narcissistic injury. This injury is not just disappointment, it is a seismic threat to their core identity. They feel humiliated, exposed, and fundamentally unworthy. To manage this agonizing internal pain, they must quickly externalize the blame. If they don't blame you, they might be forced to look inward, and that is the one thing their highly brittle psyche is built to avoid at all costs. They will dedicate enormous emotional energy to making sure the new person in their life, the replacement supply, sees you as the villain. They need the replacement to feel deeply sorry for them, thereby cementing the loyalty and high-quality supply from the new source. They will use the stories of your instability as a cautionary tale to control their new partner, warning them against ever exhibiting similar independence. It is crucial for you to understand that even when they have moved on and are seemingly happy with the new person, they are still tracking you. They want to ensure that your life has crumbled without them. If they see you thriving, successful, and happy, especially on social media, it causes a secondary, even more intense narcissistic injury. Your happiness is evidence of their failure, and that cannot stand. This often leads to a subtle, yet insidious, residual Hoover attempt weeks or months down the line. A random text saying, "Thinking of you," a comment on an old picture, or a seemingly innocent email asking about an irrelevant administrative detail. These are not attempts to reconcile. They are simple checks to see if the door is slightly ajar. They are testing the temperature, seeing if they can get a quick hit of validation by knowing you still care enough to reply emotionally. Your ultimate weapon in this entire process is radical indifference. When they rage, don't react. When they cry, don't comfort. When they slander you, maintain your dignified silence. Every time they fail to get an emotional response, their inner belief system, the one that insists they control the room, erodes a tiny bit more. No reaction is the clearest signal that their power is gone forever. For those of you who have initiated no contact, You are heroes. Going no contact is the psychological equivalent of pulling the plug on their life support system. It removes all access points for their manipulation and forces them to face the consequences of their own actions. Namely, the fact that they have ruined yet another meaningful relationship through their toxic behavior. The greatest fear for the narcissist isn't being disliked. It's being irrelevant. When you cut off the supply and refuse to play their game, you render them irrelevant in your emotional landscape. They realize that their existence no longer dictates your mood, your stability, or your future. And that realization is the true collapse. The moment their carefully constructed world of self-importance shatters. This collapse manifests internally as intense self-loathing, shame, and depression. Feelings they will immediately mask with increased grandiosity or external rage toward their current source of supply, or even strangers. They cannot sit with those dark, uncomfortable feelings. That pain is proof that they are defective, which contradicts their primary delusion of superiority. Your healing journey is, therefore, the greatest revenge. Every step toward self-love matters. Every move toward stability matters. Every healthy connection matters. It breaks their toxic influence. Your peace is tangible evidence that life is better without their chaos. And this knowledge absolutely drives them insane, because it proves their replacement value is zero. It's important, though, to maintain vigilance, especially during times of high stress or transition in the narcissist's life. They are more likely to attempt a desperate hoover when their primary supply is failing or when they are facing a professional setback. Always keep those boundaries high, reinforced by the knowledge that you have already defeated their best attempts at control. Remember, they don't hate you because you are flawed. They hate you because you stopped enabling their facade. You became the mirror reflecting their authentic, painful inner emptiness, and they will never forgive you for that clarity. Your choice to protect your mental health is a fundamental rejection of their entire existence. And that is why their reaction is so intense when the manipulation stops working. So please, take a deep breath. You survived their initial onslaught, and now you understand their desperate strategies. Use this knowledge as armor. You are strong, you are resilient, and you are worthy of relationships that nourish you, not drain you. You have already won the battle by walking away. Keep practicing that gray rock technique, maintain your boundaries fiercely, and celebrate every day you spend free from their emotional prison. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up so more survivors can find this crucial information. Comment below and tell me, what was the narcissist's most desperate tactic when you stopped reacting? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear they are not alone. I'll see all of you in the next video. Stay strong and keep shining.